was one who took the king's drink to him. He was one who would taste the drink beforehand to make sure nobody, and to ensure that nobody had tried to poison the king. This was a man of great authority, but he was also a man of great faith. Nehemiah went in to visit with Artaxerxes one day, and Nehemiah recorded the fact that when he went in as he had always done. He had never been sad in the presence of the king. But on that day, Artaxerxes looked at him and he said basically, "Nehemiah, what's wrong?" He said, "I can tell something's terribly wrong." And just to read it and just to put it in East Tennessee parlance where we can understand it, Nehemiah freaked out. Now, he did, because right then, you see, here's the problem. If you're the king's cupbearer, part of your responsibility is to always be full of joy when you're in the presence of the king. But Nehemiah had been found out. Artaxerxes said, "Hoss, something's wrong." But here's what Nehemiah did. Nehemiah said, "And I prayed to the God of heaven." That's all he did. Probably a quick prayer. A prayer just maybe, not knowing, but possibly, "Lord, you got to get me out of this, because I'm in over my head." Well, he began to talk to the king and told him the problem. And the problem was, Nehemiah's homeland was laid desolate and waste. Jerusalem had been destroyed. Some years earlier, it had been destroyed by the Babylonians. The temple was no more. The temple had been rebuilt, but still the walls were broken down. There was no infrastructure. Jerusalem was a wasteland. And Nehemiah simply asked for permission to go back. And amazingly, the king granted the permission. But not only that, God had prepared Artaxerxes to not only grant permission for Nehemiah and son to go back, but also to provide the way so that they might go back on the king's dime. Well, that's when all this started. The going forth of the command to restore and build Jerusalem. That 49-year period was the time frame in which all that was reconstructed. The wall was built in 52 days, but it took that much time after that to get all the infrastructure built up, to get the houses built back up, to get the city back where it was wanting to be. It took about 49 years. But then he goes on and he adds to that 49 years, that 7-week period, he adds to that another time period that is 62 weeks. That takes you up to a total from the time being sent back to rebuild Jerusalem until Messiah comes to be about 483 years. Sir Robert Anderson, who was a great man of God, he was an inspector and one of the captains at Scotland Yard in London some years back. He was a man of great intellect. He was also a man who studied the Bible daily. He loved the Word of God. And he laid out a time frame. It's called Becoming Prince. You can get it in bookstores and different places, but it gives you a time frame and lays out approximately, it lays out exactly from the time frame of going back in 445, being sent back, 445 BC, sent back to begin to build Jerusalem, up until Jesus came to Jerusalem to present himself before his crucifixion. He brings you to that 69-week period of time. And that's what the Bible's speaking of here. See, you notice in verse 26, it says, "And after the 62 weeks, Messiah shall be cut off." Cut off is a euphemism that the Hebrews word used that simply means will be killed. That's what cut off means, and it means nothing else. Messiah shall be cut off, but not for himself, and the people of the prince who is to come, listen to this, shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. Well, the people of the prince who is to come would be the ones who would destroy even that rebuilt Jerusalem and the temple. And that happened in 70 AD, after Jesus' life on earth, his death, his burial, and his resurrection. After that, in 70 AD, Titus, a Roman general at the time who would later become one of the emperors, one of the Caesars, Titus destroyed the city exactly as Daniel had prophesied. But in the midst of that 69-week period, 483 years, and the time we're beginning in Revelation chapter 6, there is no mention of that time frame in the Holy Scriptures. None until you get to the New Testament. Here's what's amazing. The age of the church, or the age of grace in which we live now, was something revealed to Paul and the apostles and to the church as a time frame that's not mentioned in the Scriptures but is understood by the church. We're after that time of Messiah being cut off, the end of the 69th week in Daniel's prophecy, and the beginning of the first week of the first year of the last week, which is the tribulation period that we're beginning in Revelation chapter 6. Listen to what Paul said to the Ephesian church about this time in which we live now, the age of grace or the age of the church. Paul said to the church at Ephesus in chapter 3, he says, "For this reason I, Paul, the prisoner of Christ Jesus, for you Gentiles, if indeed you have heard of the dispensation of the grace of God which is given to me for you, how that by revelation he made known to me the mystery, as I have briefly written already, by which when you read you may understand my knowledge in the mystery of Christ, which in other ages was not made known to the sons of men, as it has now been revealed by the Spirit to his holy apostles and prophets, that the Gentiles should be fellow heirs of the same body and partakers of his promise in Christ through the gospel, of which I became a minister according to the gift of the grace of God given to me by the effective working of his power." Paul wanted us to understand, he wants us to preach today the great understanding that we have, that when Daniel gave his prophecy and the Old Testament prophets looked forward to the time of the Lord coming to the earth, they didn't see the age of the church. They saw his first coming. They saw his second coming. But they didn't see the time period that was laying between the two, and that's the time period in which we live right now, the age of the church, the glorious time when the church has the ability and the call and the gift to go out into a lost and dying world and to present Jesus to everybody that we come in contact with. Now, the reason why I want you to see all that is because of what's said there in Revelation chapter 6. It's amazing whenever you start reading this and you start reading commentaries and you start reading theologians and you start reading people with all kinds of understanding what they say about these verses. Listen again as we read it. Verse 1 and 2 in Revelation chapter 6. "Now I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard one of the four living creatures saying with a loud voice like thunder, 'Come and see.' And I looked, and behold, a white horse. He who sat on it had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went off conquering and to conquer." When you start reading this, a whole lot of people say this is Jesus. This is the King coming back to conquer and conquering. But friends, I want you to understand today that this one is not Jesus at all, but is a deceiver. And he can't be seen in any other light because of the things that follow. We say, well, I believe it's Jesus because of the white horse. Well, if you want to see the real white horse, you can look at Revelation chapter 19, when the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords rides out of heaven on that steed prepared just for him. But you also see a crown here, and it says a crown was given to him. But you've got to remember, when Jesus came out of heaven, came to the earth, came with the gospel, he didn't receive a crown then, except for the crown of thorns that was really a crown of hatred and a crown of scorn. No, he didn't come with a crown. He came just like me and you. And he lived in the midst of everything that you and I live in the midst of. But in the midst of all that, where we have sinned and sinned greatly, he knew no sin. You see, this one who comes on a white horse is nothing more than a deceiver and a deception. You got to make sure you see that, because it's true today that there are many deceivers gone out into the world. Whenever you hear John again speaking in 1 John chapter 4, I'll just read this to you right quick. 1 John chapter 4, he says this. He said, "Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits whether they are of God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world." Listen to this. "By this you know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesses that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is of God. And every spirit that does not confess that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is not of God. And this is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you have heard was coming and is now already in the world. You are of God, little children, and have overcome them, because he who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. They are of the world, therefore they speak as of the world, and the world hears them. We are of God. He who knows God hears us. He who is not of God does not hear us, but by this we know the spirit of truth and the spirit of error." See, what I want you to understand today is that you can't believe everything you hear. You've seen the things on television where the fella comes up and it's, poor old boy, I mean, he makes me look like a good-looking man. He's walking with a girlfriend down the street and they run into somebody and they say, who's your friend here? And she says, oh, he's a French model. Guy looks at her and says, French model? And she says, oh yeah, I know he is, I met him on the internet. Now just because you read something on the internet doesn't mean it's true. But here's a fact. When you get something out of God's Word, you know it's true. There is no doubt, no hesitating thought. This is the very inspired, infallible, eternal Word of God. And he warns us here that many antichrists and the spirit of antichrist are out in the world today. The spirit of antichrist is a deceiver and one of deception. The spirit of antichrist might preach love, exactly as the Bible teaches love, with this exception. They will say it matters not in what you believe, just as long as you believe. See, that's a spirit of antichrist. That's a deceiver and a deception, because it matters greatly what you believe. Have you put your faith and trust in Jesus? Do you believe that He is the way, the truth, and the life, and no man comes to the Father except by Him? Do you make the confession that without Jesus nobody will get to heaven, but with Jesus anybody who knows Him can be in heaven? Do you even confess that heaven's a reality? You see, there are some who are deceivers and have bought into the deception that even today will say, well, no, we don't believe heaven's a literal place. It's a state of mind and a way of living. No, heaven is my home. It's a place that one day I will populate and a place that I will be in forever. This is not my home. And if you're a child of the King, if you've been blood bought, if you've been born again, you've got to understand, this is not your home. Your home is a place called heaven that we long for and look forward to, but we have a lot of work to do before we get there. When you get back to Revelation chapter 6 and you see this deceiver, you see also that he has a crown. But when you study that, it's a Stephanos crown. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. One of the neat things about the elders around the throne of God is that they have Stephanos crowns as well. Now, a Stephanos crown was a crown of victory. It was a crown that would be given to the competitors in the Olympic Games at the time. If you won an event, you would get that garland. It would be placed on your head by the Caesar or whoever the reigning magistrate was who was over the games at that time. It was a beautiful crown, and it was a crown to be greatly desired, but it was also a fleeting crown. It wouldn't last long because, after all, it was made of live greenery, and it was coiled in a garland and placed on your head. So though it was greatly desired and though it was beautiful in appearance, it wouldn't last long at all. Same way with this crown. This crown that this deceiver has was a crown given to him. And by the way, I might just say this plainly. It's a crown given to him by God. God is the one who sends him into this world. This is not one who Satan sends. This is not one who we conjure up. This is one who God Himself sends and allows to come in this world. Well, he has this Stephanos garland on his head, but it's not a crown of lastingness. It's not a crown that will be there for a while. Not like the crown that the elders had. A Stephanos crown as well, but it was a crown of gold that they had, one that was imperishable. Well, it says that this crown was given to him, and he went out conquering and to conquer. And that's exactly what the spirit of Antichrist is doing today. He's conquering, and he's out to conquer. You've got to understand that today, because the fact of the matter is we've got to preach Jesus today more than we've ever preached Jesus, because this world is running headlong into a time of rejecting Jesus